I should do this one first. I always forget. This one takes a second longer. 3, 2, 1. All right, we are live. So, I'm so excited. This is my beautiful friend AJ, and this is episode 4 of Little Life, Big Loss. AJ, we met through a business connect class type thing.
Yeah, that went off
a while ago. And AJ's been to my salon and had her lashes done, and we've just stayed friends. And sadly, when I lost my little Milli, we had something to connect over. So pretty shitty, but we make good friends out of it, right?
That's true. I agree.
So I'm going to start off. We've decided that we just want to have a really raw conversation about our life and our journey, but I do have a couple of questions that I'll start with. Yeah. So we want to know, who were you before you became Benji's mum? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I was already a mum to a little boy called Judah. I guess I was a stay-at-home mum. Before that, I was a makeup artist, a wife. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I had a few things, before Benji, but I guess you kind of sometimes forget who you were before. That's for sure. Yeah.
I was actually reading, and someone gifted me a grief journal the other week, and the first question was, who were you before baby loss? And I was like, wow, that's such a strong question, and you forget what life was like before that.
Yeah.
So you're a stay-at-home mummy with Judah, a makeup artist.
Yeah.
And you're married to
my husband Josh. So we've been married, God, I think it's nearly 9 years.
What?
9 years? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So we grew up in New Zealand and only moved over here 4.5 years ago. So, we actually struggled to have our first son about 4.5 years. And then
4.5 years to Judah.
Yeah, we just weren't on any, contraception and such, and kind of just, we were like a little bit young, so we just kind of just went with it, not thinking anything, and then we moved here. We were like 3 months in, and then we found out we were pregnant. I think it was just the holiday effect. I think living here, it was like, oh my gosh, this is
interesting.
Yeah.
And so besides the sea change, what else had changed?
I guess we started actually eating keto.
Oh, you told me that before. I forgot about that. That's so good.
Yeah, because I've got PCOS, so we knew it was a struggle to fall pregnant, and then when we did that quite strictly, both of us, it just kind of naturally happened, and it was crazy. And then Judah was a actual COVID baby. He was born the 2 weeks of COVID, which threw the world into chaos, which was crazy.
How was that, having a baby during COVID?
It was really hard. I think, talking with my husband the other day, I feel like I'm still traumatized from COVID because I've had both babies now through COVID, and I haven't had the ability to have a newborn or have anyone see me be pregnant, in that sort of way. And we had no support. None of my family met my first son until he was 1. And I think other people just forget that, but for me, I'm just like, that's a big thing,
Huge.
Yeah.
And you weren't, so they couldn't meet him because they couldn't come into Australia?
Yeah, correct. It was that whole, what's it called? Quarantine. So just before my son's first birthday, and I was actually 16 weeks pregnant with Benji, my second one, I said, stuff it, I'm going to New Zealand. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what my doctors are saying with what was going on. I booked the hotel, did 2 weeks while being pregnant with a nearly 1-year-old.
Oh my word.
Just for
so
my, to meet him and just have that time together. Yeah.
And were you able to have Josh in the hospital with you when you had Judah?
Yeah. That was kind of the very early stages and stuff. And then my night nurse actually snuck him in to sleep on the floor. They weren't allowed to do that, but she's like, it's okay, let it happen. So, yeah, but it was it was quite good because we were in our own little bubble of just us, I guess, in that sort of stage. But
there's pros and cons, right?
So pros and cons. It's it's awesome, and then it's it sucks having your mum or your family or your friends meet your first baby. So.
Totally. And so you were just saying then that you were 16 weeks pregnant with Benji at that moment, and you said with everything going on. So did you know at that point? So let's talk through, so how old was Judah when you fell pregnant with Benji?
So he was 6 months old, so he was a surprise baby.
Yeah.
Because again, you know, we were struggling and we were like, oh, we'll be fine, and then we stopped breastfeeding, and then happened, and it was a really exciting time, and then it was the 12-week scan that pretty much went, I would say, downhill from there. And it's interesting, I think I've been so blasé all the way through the journey, because when the sonographer was like, oh, I just need to go talk to the doctor, something's going on, and I was like, oh, okay, no worries.
Yeah.
And then we had our GP call us and let us know what was going on. Again,
They didn't tell you at the appointment?
They weren't allowed to, the sonographer. She was just like, I just need your GP to confirm what's going on with my doctor. So then, in Josh's eyes, like, we went out for lunch after, and I remember it so specifically, he's not a cry, he like burst into tears, and he's like, there's something wrong with our baby because there's extra fluid on the back of the neck, which is an indicator of an extra chromosome. And in my head I'm like, no babe, they get this stuff wrong all the time, you know. And he's just like, I can't go back to work, I'm like, we're just not sure what's going to happen. And
so they told you that there was fluid?
All they told us was there's fluid at the back of the neck. And then I just Googled what they kind of, you know, meant. And then the GP, my GP was really onto it. She called me and was just like, this is quite serious. And I don't know, I was still like in denial. I was like, okay. Like, she was like, no, you need to really take it seriously. I was like, oh, all right,
And do you think that was a faith-based thing, or was it a naivety, or was it?
I think it's both. Like, in reality, I was just like, God, what the heck? But I think I was just, I'm naturally quite a positive person, so I was just like, it's okay, you know.
And you just had a healthy baby. You
exactly.
know, you just had Judah, he was healthy. What, you know, why would there be something wrong?
Exactly.
Pregnancy. And so that was at 12 weeks.
12 weeks scan.
And then you went to New Zealand at 16 weeks. What, had you found out anything between the 12 weeks and the 16 weeks?
Yeah, so we had a procedure done by, what's it called? CVS. Which means they take a needle this long and inject it through to the amniotic fluid to figure out what the genetics was and what type of condition he had. So he ended up having, it's called Edwards syndrome, which is, the fancy term is called trisomy 18. So when you think of Down syndrome, that's trisomy 21. So he had full mosaic trisomy 18. So
isn't it crazy the words we learn?
It's insane. I'm like, what the heck?
Okay.
So the easiest way is to describe, he had a lot of issues going on, but often they have like a strawberry shaped head, and they can't open their hands, and their heart is often a larger fluid. And with trisomy 18 specifically, when you are pregnant, you carry so much fluid. Like at 24 weeks, I was full term, my belly. So, and I actually didn't know that because I was still in New Zealand, and I complained to my mum. I was like, Mum, I just feel so pregnant. You know when like ladies go, I feel so pregnant. I'm like, no, I was full term at 24 weeks, you know. And so, the sonographer in New Zealand, because I was still getting tested over there and checked up on, because being a Kiwi, it was just, they were like, this is just part of the condition. You're just going to have a lot of fluid. And I could have been drained when I got back to Australia, but that in itself is quite an intense procedure. Even the CVS that we just talked about before, there was like half a chance that something could have happened. And so they had the screen above me doing the procedure, and I was like, do you mind turning that off, just because I don't want to see if he passes away during this procedure.
Totally.
Like, it's even
is
just
it
saying
the
that.
amniotesis or something? Is that similar?
I think so. Yeah.
Similar, where they take it from the amniotic fluid and test that. Okay.
Like, I remember seeing the tube of the syringe, and it was so fat, full of fluid, and just like, and it was such a sterile environment, especially being in the fetal medicine unit where they're doing the stuff every day. You're sitting there going, there's no music. Everyone's like just doing their thing, and I'm just going, like, I remember just praying, going, God, like, this is the one time you show up. Like, and again, he floods the room, you know. But just when you talk about it, like, wow, it all comes back.
I know. I feel teary-eyed already. I'm like, okay, don't cry yet.
You're all good.
And so, what was the medical's directions for you? Like, what were the medical professionals saying to you at that point?
They were pretty much saying from day one, you should probably consider aborting. This is like no chance whatsoever. And we knew such we didn't even just talk about it. We just knew such a piece of, he's our son, no matter what it looks like, whether he's very, I guess, disabled or doesn't live, whatever, we're just going to see this through. And I think it was the 4th appointment, and we got to the point where, like, okay, stop talking about abortion. We're not going to, like, they go, we can abort right up until full term with this condition. I said, like, that's not even an option. And I remember specifically saying that to Indian lady doctor, and it was ironic because she actually ended up being at a birth, and like seeing it all kind of happen and seeing the little miracles along the way. And I pretty much said to her, look, we made it, but we did it.
We did it, yeah.
Like, I know what you said, but this is what we believe.
And so talk me through that, like, so they're telling you to terminate, you're saying, you know, we have faith.
Yeah.
Either, you know, we know what the possibilities are. We know that, you know, he's either going to be really unwell or he may pass away.
Yeah.
And so how did you feel for the rest of your pregnancy knowing that?
Honestly, I don't actually remember too much.
Yeah.
I just remember just always being like, it's okay. Like, I've always just kind of been that person that's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
We're fine. Like, it's all good. And I just remember so many people going, oh my gosh, like, you're doing okay. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. But I guess my marriage, like, we just clung on to each other and had some really good family around us. And we've got some really good family friends, like, from that moment. They just kind of took us in, you know, and been with us since that day. Of course, there's moments where I'm just like, wow, this is extreme, but I think I've blocked out a lot of it too.
Totally. I can imagine that.
Yeah.
And because when was this? When are we talking about? What date?
Like, in terms of,
when was Benji conceived and birthed?
So Judah was 6 months. I can't remember what was it. Oh, geez, that's a lot. He was born the 25th of June.
Yeah. 2020.
2021. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're 2 and a bit years in, and so because it's so obviously, you know, it's so interesting to hear from somebody who's so far ahead of us.
Yeah.
6 weeks in, you know, it's so fresh, and so I was only saying to you earlier, you know, you think, oh, am I going to remember the story?
Yeah.
But you do, and it just comes back. But I can imagine that trauma blocks out so much as well. Yeah. You know, and if you're not reliving it constantly, which we don't want to do, you know, it's this fine line between I want to relive it because I want to remember them, but I don't want to because the trauma hurts so much.
Exactly.
And so you went through with the pregnancy? Yeah. All the way until what week?
We were 33 weeks. Yeah. And I knew that week something had changed. A lot more fluid. I was carrying just differently. Yeah. And this is the craziest story. I remember it was about 6:30 in the morning, and I was getting ready because I would take my husband to work every day, and this was to Service Paradise from Robina. Yeah. And we got in the car, and I knew I was contracting. I just knew. But I was too scared to tell Josh. I was keeping time, and it was every 4 minutes. This is me. And
what a woman.
No, but like, I was in denial. I was like, shit, this is not happening. Like, I was just like, I've got a toddler. You're about to go to work. I was supposed to have my baby sprinkle that night. And Josh was supposed to have the baby shower at work just because he was finishing work literally that day. Because he knew he had to look after me because I was just not coping with having a running around toddler and full term, I guess, belly. And then I got home and I called my friend Hannah, who's a midwife, and I said, I think I am in labour. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, so this is the time. And she's like, we're literally around the corner. Like, me and Joey are going to get in the car. We're going to come around and see if you're okay. And so I went upstairs with a toddler, fully pregnant, and literally just chucked my bags together. And I was just like, oh, this is so hectic. This is insane. And I quickened my labour so much from 4 minutes to a minute and a half. I was in the back of her car, putting in the bags to put Judah in the car. And she's like, we need to call an ambulance because this is way too quick. And I was like, okay, like, just again, so blasé, just like, whatever you say, you're the midwife, you know. Right. And so Hannah just had a 6-week-old baby. Then my toddler, like, So Joey took the kids to go get Josh from work, which is surface, and then we're waiting for an ambulance, which was literally 2 minutes later. But I yelled out to Hannah when they were gone, and I was like, I'm about to push. Like, I knew the feeling. And she, in her head, she's midwife, like, I know. She's like, oh my God, am I going to catch your baby? But because I had so much fluid, my water's just broken. It just went everywhere. And I was like, oh, I feel better now. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, I'm good. But my contractions were still going. And then the ambulance came, and I just remember just being so like, this is so crazy. I just remember being so joyful. Hannah goes, you were just talking to everyone like they were your best friend, and then you'd stop, had a contraction, then go back to like, how far away are we? Like, how's everyone going? And she's like, you're crazy. Nothing. I think just because I was in adrenaline, I was like, I'm about to have my baby, and that's, I think my brain, that was the only option I had, was it was either going to be the shut off or just overly crazy joyful. Like, it was just so crazy. And then we got into the hospital, and they checked me. I was already like 4 or 5 centimeters. Again, I was just like, oh, like, how long's your shift today? And it's like, oh my gosh, just focus on you. And they were like, oh honey, like, you're a bit, he's like, baby's really struggling, we just need to take you into like theatre, go to emergency. And I was like, yeah, okay, no worries.
So did you have a vaginal birth with Judah?
Yeah, and he was 9.9, so I knew what like big baby was and stuff, and I was just so not afraid to give birth whatever way. And the craziest story was Joey got a speeding ticket to get my husband to the hospital, so we paid that. Anyway, I literally had everything done. Josh wasn't still with me, and they were like, can we do epidural? And I just felt so much peace while I was in there. I was just like, again, just going with it, and they laid me down, and then literally Josh sat down, and then Benji was born. It was just like the timing of everything was insane. But the craziest timing of this all was, I called my mum, all amongst the craziness of the ambulance coming. I said, Mum, I'm in labour. She's a nurse, so she was like, oh my God. So she literally, at that time in New Zealand, you had to get a 72-hour window before you could travel. But they...
Because we're still in COVID.
Still COVID. And so she rang, not the embassy, but something high up to be like, I need to go over to Australia today. Or tomorrow. And they apparently got that sorted. And then they were on the flight the next day, I think 4 o'clock or something, and then that night at 6 o'clock in New Zealand, the whole country shut down. So it's just like, if we hadn't had Benji come at that time, they wouldn't have been able to come, and
hence all the little miracles you told me about along the way.
Exactly.
And so your mum was able to be there shortly after
the next day. So because we went to the Marta that night, they were to come the next day and meet my baby.
And tell me, you just said that you're at the Marta, and that's where we were, and we had such a beautiful experience, and I know that not everyone does, and some people do, etc., etc. And so, what was so you birthed
at the Gold Coast Uni Hospital,
and then got transferred to the Marta.
So that was our biggest request, because we knew the specialist, his name's Ben, I think, was in the Marta, so that was our request, that we would get travelled up that night, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and we couldn't get into the Ronald McDonald House for the boys. So I remember being shoved in this room at the Marta with, just had my baby. He was up already in the room, and I couldn't go see him because I had to sort out Judah and my husband. Calling at the hotel next to the hospital going, do you have a room? Because I don't know where I'm going to put my husband, and saying, because I've got a room, I'm fine.
The staff weren't helping?
They literally were just like, you've got to go in here and we've got to sort out your room. And it was like an hour just being in this tiny room going, I just want to see my baby, but I've got to look after this baby and make sure that these boys have their, But luckily, Judah was pretty easygoing, got them sorted and whatnot, and then I got to go up and see, Benji, and see how he was doing at the Marta. It was amazing. Like, I think we were saying the other day, they're just angels on earth, these nurses and doctors, one-on-one care. It's insane. Like, I wish I remember some of their names.
Me too. I emailed them about something different today, and I haven't. I'm going to email them again and be like, which one was this lady, and who was on the shift, because they were divine. I really, and I want to send them something. Somebody had a really good idea the other day that you can send like a candle with the baby's name on it, or there's a couple of other ideas. So I thought that would just be so nice, because they were just such a big part of it. And I truly think that, well, I know that people's experience comes from the way we're treated by the medical staff in the hospitals, etc. So
massively.
So within a few hours of Benji being born, we were able to go see him. And how was he?
He was okay. I guess it was just, I had to trust God that, you know, the transition of him going up there, because we had no clue what even his condition was. Like, I don't know if this is too close to home, but when he was born, he cried like a little kitten. And it was just like, I was like, Josh, is that a little kitten we can say? And he's just like, yeah, that's our son, like crying in his own time. And they brought him around, sorry to go back, but they brought him around to pretty much, I didn't know this at the time, but to pretty much say goodbye. So they just kept him there going, can you just keep kissing him and making sure that he knows you're there? And I was like, okay, no worries, okay, I'll just kiss him. And then Josh goes, you need to kiss him one more time, because they had to go to, not resuscitate him, but because he's such a small, like his cartilage of, I guess, his tube down here was all jig-jagged with cartilage, so it wasn't straight down. They could put it in, they had to get the smallest tube, and it was actually the Indian lady who got it popped in, and like after that he was, I guess, doing okay. But I guess to answer your question, he was okay that night. And so in the hospital at that moment you didn't have any skin to skin or anything like that? It was more just like a little there was, I think it was the next day. It was the next day, I think. Honestly, it was, and that was really special, because it was just me and Josh, and I think someone took Judah, and it was just, you can just see back in the photos, and it was so tired, you can see it in our eyes, but we were just so happy. And I remember a mum saying to me before all of this happened, she goes, just take photos and videos like nothing else. And so I just remember taking like little selfies and be like, oh, he's looking, but like it's just so nice to, like, even on iPhones, you know, the live photos that turn into videos, you're like, oh my gosh.
One of our professional photos is me sitting there and my sister's leaning in to take a photo. And when we saw it, we were like, oh, that's a really cool photo. And then I said to my sister, I wonder what you're taking it of. And so we went into her phone, and we have this live photo of her taking it of me, and it's just, I'm smiling, but I have tears, and I'm holding Milli in skin to skin. And then you hear my sister going, oh, like it's just so beautiful. Like it's all those little things. And Dylan and I talked about it in the podcast, in his podcast, saying, like, I lay in bed all the time and just watch the videos and look at the photos, and Dylan's like, he doesn't, you know, it's just different how everyone does things differently. And some people don't take a lot of photos, or they don't take videos, and, you know, everyone is different. But I definitely cherish the ones that I have.
Yeah, definitely.
So you love that you have all of those?
Yeah, definitely. It's so nice, but then you look back and go, I don't have enough.
Totally.
Or like, I remember, I think last year thinking, I feel like I've just posted all my photos, and it's hard, because you're just like, I wish there was more. And but you know, at the time, a lot of my friends were taking stuff and then airdrop to me, so I feel like I've got a good amount.
And so you had friends and family come visit in the hospital? Yeah,
so of course we had my parents the next day, and we had some really good friends from church be around us. On the second day, we got the opportunity to, I guess, dedicate Benji. So we had some pastors from church just come and anoint him, and it was just beautiful, because in the mater, they made it all private, so they put like I guess shields around us so we could have some privacy while we had that moment. And it was just, there's this beautiful photo. I think there was 3 of us, like, so 3 couples, and a photo of us putting our hands on him, just like praying for him. It's just a really cool photo.
That's so nice. So were you guys in a shared room in the NICU? There was like six beds or so?
Yeah, we were.
Similar to me.
It's crazy.
And so how much time did you get with Benji?
So it was born on the 25th, and he passed away on the 28th. So I kind of, so 3 days, So I guess on the second day, that's when he got quite unwell, because I think I remember hearing in your podcast that Milli couldn't be on one certain side. Benji was the same. I think it was the left side. I remember saying to the nurse, why is he so purple? Like, he can't breathe properly. And they're like, yeah, he's really struggling on that side. Let's pop on the other side. And then once he was there, he opened his eyes and just, like, was able to just be like, thank you, you know, like he was in pain, you know.
His whole body or just his head? Like, was he able, did they...
It was more that I think just his motion of the head, it just wasn't comfortable for him. Yeah,
Milli was on her back the whole time.
Yeah.
And, like, obviously she had the broken arms and broken legs,
Yeah.
but her head was always to one side, but she couldn't move her head, so they would move her head.
Yeah.
And have it on the other side.
Yeah.
And we just alternated, but yeah, one side kind of always looked a little bit more swollen than the other. So.
Yeah, it's not nice, eh? Yeah.
And so, talk me through. I'm just gonna have a little sip of wine. AJ and I decided to have wine with tonight's podcast.
We did.
So good.
It's so good.
Okay, so talk us through at what point did you know, because I assume, when you went through the pregnancy and you birthed Benji, did you know how much time you were going to have, or you weren't sure? Did you, what did that look like for you, and at what point did you know that your 3 days was coming to an end?
I think it was on the second day. As before, he was getting quite unwell. And they were kind of mentioning little things, but it wasn't until my head doctor was like, we need to have a really serious conversation with you. I was so in freaking denial of just like, oh yeah, let's go have a cuppa. And they were like, we're going to all have a serious conversation, AJ.
Take me into the quiet room.
Yep, that quiet room.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And like, even my nurse was crying, and I was like, why is she crying? Like, what's going on? And then my our cardiologist was just he was beautiful. He like did this massive heart drawing and was just like, this is what his heart looks like. His heart's a lot better, but it's, he's not doing well. I still at the point didn't know what they were talking about. I think my brain was just like protective mode. And Josh was just like, what does this mean, sort of thing. And they just said there's absolutely no chance at all of anything. And I think, I again protected myself. I was like, okay, what do we do? And they were just like, are you gonna consider what we just said? I was like, I need to process it. Can't cry about it right now. Like, I just can't. And they said, well, what are the options? Do you want to go home? Do you want to stay at the hospital? Or would you like to go to Hummingbird House? And so Hummingbird House was kind of brought up to us a while back when we were with the maternal fetal medicine unit at the Gold Coast. And I guess it was just on the back burner. We were like, okay. At the time we were renting. I was like, we're not going home. Don't want to be in the hospital, because all the people in the hospital had like, so we were like next to full-size babies of like, they were sick, but they weren't intensely sick like my son. So I remember at the time, like, there was one woman, she actually had to be called to come down to feed her like child, and I was just like, you are so lucky. Like, I'm right here, like, here the whole time, and you just have to be called to like hang out with you.
For the 7 days that we were in hospital with Milli, the other babies had no visitors. It was so awful. I was like, I want those babies, you know, like, it was so sad. There was a little girl there that had been there for 101 days, and we didn't see a single visitor, and we don't know the story, and so Dylan and I were like making up stories. We were like, the mum's got kids at home and the dad's working away, or you know, like, but I don't know what happened. They obviously couldn't tell us that, but I just wanted to hug those babies. I was like, so sad. And so tell us what Hummingbird House is.
So that is a hospice for children and infants. So not only that, they also provide care for, respite for people with kids who are really unwell. So we had the opportunity to, I guess, get a room, that's what we call it. It was the last room that was available. So we could go there with the help of the MARTA, with this big, I guess, machine to transport Benji. And at the time, the doctors couldn't tell us whether he was going to take one breath or last 3 days. So, we got there about 5 o'clock, and they were amazing. Like, I think, the doctor, her name's Deb, and she's amazing, and I still need to contact her. They're very protective about like getting out like information, like personal emails. So
sure.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, no worries. But anyway, I found out that morning she took the day, like she was on her day off, and she came in to like help the procedure, I guess. And she's like, I just wanted to make sure you guys are okay, and that Benji was very much looked after, and she was with us right until the very end, essentially. And it was just great. I went to Hummingbird House. They put on a massive feed for everybody, and just had we had my parents there, and we had like our friends around us, and then we had just time like with everyone to, I guess, say goodbye. And we had, it was so weird, 2 different phones of all my siblings, Josh's parents who were in quarantine in New Zealand were watching. I hate that saying that, but like we're involved near the end sort of thing, and we wanted a atmosphere of worship, and we had a mix of live / stuff going in the background, and we just sung all the way.
Are you saying Josh was singing?
Yeah.
AJ's husband, Josh is a singer.
It was so good. And 2 other people singing, and it was just like, again, we're our own little bubble, like of just what was happening. And
what's the room like at home? So is it a spacious room?
It's like an apartment feeling.
Wow.
So it was very open living with your own little kitchenette. There's 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and that's just 1 unit out of, I think they had about 7 of those.
Wow.
So you've got like other families going through the same thing on pretty much either side. So on the door was, Benji's name, and just very personalised all the way through, and you had a social worker with you the whole time.
So beautiful.
And like, again, angels on earth, and the whole time you're like, why are you doing this? Like, this is what we're here for, to, support you. And like, I think when I look back on photos and videos, like I've got files on my phone that I don't really show to many people, because it's like, of him passed, and it's, I think we talked about before, when your baby's passed, they go quite a different colour, and like, I
was not prepared for that colour. I just, there's nothing that can like prepare you for that. And I mean, I'm hoping that something like this podcast might bring awareness to certain things. I mean, I don't know who's going to listen to it, but for me, it's like, I do wish I knew. Like, probably my only regret is that moment of, I probably would have made that time last longer had I have known that's what it was going to, because, we ended up laughing Milli once she had already passed, and the colour had changed, and that was just so gut-wrenching. But I wasn't prepared for that, so So how much time did you spend with Benji?
That night? I guess it was about 8 o'clock that he actually passed away, but I think it's so crazy looking back. We all had him in his bassinet just there, and the nurse goes, do you want to change your baby? Like, do you want to put him into something else? And I just went into mum mode. I was just like, I remember looking back at photos, and everyone's just looking, going, because I just remember talking to him the whole time. He's like, I'm just going to change you, bub. Like, we're just going to put you into something warmer. And to other people on the outside, would have been like, what are you doing? Like, or I don't know. That's just my,
You know what? I think they were probably in awe of you. They were probably looking, just thinking, look at this amazing, beautiful, strong mum that's just talking to her child who has just passed away, but their spirit's still there. And that's strength, and that's beauty and courage and all those things. Like, that's, I would assume that they were looking at you thinking, or that you're crazy.
No. It was good. Like, we all hung out and had cups of tea and were laughing, and I think I had someone comment going, oh, that was a bit random, like, after your baby passing, like, laughing. I was like, no, but that's what we needed. We needed to just connect with our friends. Our baby was still in the room. Once everyone left, we, because we had the option of him either sleeping in our bed that night or the bassinet, and Josh and I were like, no, he needs to be out in the lounge, and we put the aircon on to make him nice and cold. But I think once he passed, it was like, he didn't look like my baby, and I was very, I wouldn't say disconnected, but I was like, I know where he is, and that doesn't look like my baby, so I'm going to detach myself. And I was very much like, it was such a weird but beautiful process, I think.
It's funny, so that because Dylan said the same thing today. He said once we were up in the room, and once it was almost at that point that he was like, he knew what was coming and he was ready, and that was his detached point as well.
For sure.
It's just, I guess it's defense mechanisms and trauma responses and all those kinds of things, and with the laughing, we were saying like, you're either crying right up here or you're laughing, and it's again that defense mechanism of just having to bring your body back to some sense of relaxation or some sense of safety, to then
or
deal with
normality,
What's that?
Or normality, But it's so crazy. Like looking back, I'm like, wow, our whole family's watched that through a camera. Like it's just like, I remember, I think my sister was saying, I would have just taken my baby and hid and had that time, and I'm like, that's okay, because that's what you would have done, you know. And
exactly right.
But I remember the next day waking up with my little Judah and just going up to the lounge, and he knew full well what was going on.
I was going to say to you, so at what point did you explain to Judah, and what did he understand of the situation? Because how old was he at this point?
He was just 1 and a bit, so not that long. I guess old enough to comprehend, but he's very much a gentle soul. And so, sorry to laugh, but before Benji passed, he came round because he got kicked out of the mater because he had a cough. So the first time he met his brother, he coughed and they were like, get out. And I was like, awesome. So he met Benji, I guess, the night of his passing, and he goes over and smacks him on the head, and I was like, well, I guess that's your little brother. So
brotherly love.
You're good. You just won. Where he was very gentle, and like even like when we had him in the bassinet thing, he just was like, oh baby, he just kind of got it, which was awesome.
And how now that he's 3?
Yeah, 3.5. Yeah.
How are the conversations now around Benji? Are they, do you still talk with him? Does he understand? What things in the house does he look at and recognise as Benji's?
Yeah, so we've got like a little area, and it's like books, pictures, just everything. It's like our Benji like area, which is really cool. So Judah can easily go up and. So if anyone touches this or the box, he's like, that's my baby. But the other day, he said something that I just like full on started crying in his room. He goes, Mommy, Benji Jesus, I want to play with him. Why not? And I was just like, oh shit. Like, honestly, I wish I could tell you could play, because he's just at that age where he just wants to play with someone, and like, he just understands that Benji's with Jesus, and it's so crazy. Like, he said to his kindy teacher, oh, Benji did, and at that point we hadn't told his kindy teachers anything, because it's just so hard sometimes to relive and tell the story. And then his teachers were like, who's Benji? Why is he dead? And I was like, wow, that was our second son. And the whole it's hard to pick and choose who you talk to. Like, when I first started my job a year ago, I told my boss, I've got 2 sons, and then 2 weeks in, he's like, oh, how are your kids going? Like, you boys at kindy? I was like, so on that, I've got 1 son who's at kindy, the other one unfortunately passed away, and I talk about it as if he is with us, because he is, but I definitely pick and choose who I say that to, because I can't be bothered with some people.
And that's really hard. And I guess I shared the other week about I'm so fresh into this that I go places and someone will say, oh, so do you have kids? And I'm like, and I was so stuck for words. I was like, what do I say? And so I said, I do, but she passed away. Or I don't even remember what I said at the time, but that's what my new thing is going to be. Like, I do have a daughter, but she passed away. Or it's like, how do I have this conversation? And then sometimes I guess it would just be say no, or I don't know. I guess you just got to roll with it and see how you feel in that moment.
Oh, exactly. You got to protect yourself,
Yeah.
And then I think it's really difficult because, look, any grief is very valid, but I now going through an infant loss plus a miscarriage, there is quite a clear difference. Like, because you carry that baby for months and months, deliver it, and you say goodbye. Where a miscarriage is like, yes, it's painful, but it's different. So when I share stuff like that, they're like, oh yeah, I'll have people go, oh, I know what that feels like. I'm like, oh, did you lose a baby? Oh yeah, I had a miscarriage. I'm like, okay, like, and it's not to judge, but it's just hurtful because it's like you actually don't know.
We've also had a miscarriage, and Dylan said the same thing as somebody said to him, like, oh, we've had a miscarriage, and he got really upset and was like, it's different. You know, we birthed our 39-week baby, and then she died 6 days later. Like, you know, we went into that birth with no complications and thinking everything was going to be fine. We had the whole nursery set up, and it's been something that I've really struggled with because I look at, you know, I'm in so many Facebook groups and all these kinds of things, and I've experienced miscarriage and I know how gut-wrenching that is, and so I try not to, invalidate that. But it's different. And it's the same as I've been talking about postpartum, and I'm like, postpartum and being a mum is hard. Postpartum without your baby is hard. Very different hard.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, being a mum is hard. I totally would understand that, you know, crying babies and late nights and breastfeeding and all the things. I get that. But it's just different, and it's the same. Miscarriage loss is different to baby loss.
For sure. And it's not talked about. It's actually not talked about. The differences.
Yes.
Because the people talking about it have not gone through it, or they've just had a miscarriage. Going, oh, I think I know what you're going through. And I don't want to come off like harsh in that way, but we need to talk about like the after of having a baby and losing it, and
so
what it looks like.
What did your body go to? So you lost Benji at 3 days old after 33 weeks pregnant. So did your body then go through postpartum, and what did that look like?
So second day I was having a shower, my first one. And my milk came in hard and fast in the shower, and I was like, shit, I forgot I'm going to have milk, like, sort of thing, because we knew at the time, you know, things went well and stuff, and so I wrapped myself pretty much. So I just put on the tightest bra and was just like, nah, this is not happening, sort of thing. I'm all good. And then got my friend to go to Kmart, give me this, you know, the sucking undies and the sucking tights, you know, and she's like, yep, that's what you want. So but then just before we were transporting Benji from the Mara to Hummingbird, my friend Hannah, she's like, why don't we get some milk for him? I was like, okay. So literally out goes my tit and into a little, like, you know, pea cup thing. And she like just saw me because I think she struggled with milk or whatever, and she's like, you're just flowing with colostrum. I'm like, am I? Like, because I'm just not thinking. I'm just like, oh, okay. And it's still in my fridge to this day. It's so funny. But not funny, but but yeah. So yeah, I guess, and just but it's so random, but I loved my body after baby, because I was like, I know what I've gone through to carry both these boys. But I think it wasn't until like 6 months into losing Benji that everything broke, and that's what really, I guess the word is, people didn't know how to respond to me, because I'd been so positive, as I've kind of already shared with you. Yep, like, we're okay. Yeah, baby, awesome. And even at Hummingbird House, just, you know, him passing and having funeral, I was okay. But then
it's also shock, you know, like, we knew that something was coming. But it's still shocking.
For sure.
And I think that's why you're in this, like, state of, this is okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Exactly.
And then reality hits you. I mean, it was 6 weeks later for you, by the sounds of it, 6 months later. And then what happened?
I just became a very angry person, but I hid it really well with people, except like my really close girlfriends. And I think even that, like, one of my really, really close friends, I would say whatever and just didn't bother her, because she's like, it's okay. Where I think it shocked a lot of people, especially in church, because they were like, what? Like, you were really happy and now you're really angry, and you're angry at God. And I'm like, I just felt very lost, because then I felt very, and people aren't meant to judge, but I felt very judged in how I was afterwards and things like that, and I just didn't know how to be. And I remember sitting down with a friend, and probably wasn't the right person, and I said, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I was so serious.
At church or life?
No.
You didn't want to be at church?
Didn't want to be alive. And I think she's just like, oh, I don't know, like, maybe talk to a professional. And I was just like, isn't this what we're supposed to do? Share with people? Like, you know, and I just didn't feel like anyone took me serious. Not that I don't think I would have done anything, but I was
but you
very,
thought you were there.
I was in a very dark place, and I didn't know how to tell, like, the right people, I think. Yeah.
And so how did you navigate that? Like, you spoke to your friend and she didn't know how to handle it, so did you seek professional help, or did you tell Josh?
Yeah, like, I think Josh was on his own journey, and he was great. Like, he was great and took me how I was and was very supportive, but I still had to also be a mum, so I felt like I had no space to just be, so I had to just get up and still be me, and I went back to work quite quickly, which I regret, but looking back, it's got me to where I am today. Like, I made some very quick, rational decisions, which I wish I didn't do, but I'm in a great place now, like, in my career, so it doesn't change anything. But we saw a professional psychologist, and it was the best thing we did individually and as a couple. He wasn't a Christian counsellor, but he's from a Christian background, and he's very much about how your brain works, which I loved, because I'm like, okay, I'm feeling like this, what do I need to do? And he was amazing, and he ended up like not charging us a thing, which was just like, you know what, how it is sometimes, it's very expensive, you know. Absolutely. So we're very much looked after in that way, and that really helped. And I think you just have to learn to dig yourself out of your own stuff sometimes, and it just made me realise how much stronger I am, I think, by myself and also with my husband, you know.
And I just think the professional help is so necessary. Like, I would not be handling myself as I am now if I didn't have my psych. I found a new psychologist the first week after Milli passed away. My GP recommended her, and I've been going every week or every fortnight, every 10 days or so since Milli passed away. And I will go. The other day she was like an hour and a half late because of, you know, whatever had happened, but I just sat in my car and waited because I knew I had to see her. And I just think it's so important, and it can be expensive, but I think a lot of people don't seek professional help because they're scared of the cost. But you would be so surprised at how much help is out there for free, or people don't charge you, or you can get the mental health plan from the doctor and then it's rebated. Like, I think my doctor normally charges $110 a session. I'm paying like $13 at the moment.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
And then the psychologist is similar. Like, they charge you the $200, but then they back, you know, $187, something like that. But I don't even, like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't even care. Suddenly they're paying me maternity leave. I just use it for my own health right now. Like, I'm getting acupuncture and I'm having one-on-one Pilates and psychologists. You need all of that. Like, because if you're not seeking help, you're just digging deeper. You know, I know I would be.
For sure.
My mental health would not be good if I wasn't having all this help.
Absolutely. So true. Crazy, eh?
It's so crazy. And so, what things did you love? Like, you knew that you were going to lose Benji. What things were on offer for you that you did and that you loved, that you cherished the most? Like, what are your favourite things at home? Like, did you get offered, like, the handprints? Because these are all things that I didn't think of. And then the hospital just offered us these, the precious things, the box.
Yeah, the boxes.
What's in the box?
I guess it was like the hand print and the footprints, but we couldn't do the hands because his hands were like shut tight.
With a little smush hand.
Like, but it was cool. Like, so at Hummingbird House the next day after he passed, there was a lady that just turned up and did his casting, like the hands and the feet. And I just couldn't get over, like, every time someone would come in the room and do something for Benji that it was free.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, so how much is this gonna cost me? And my social worker was like, chill, AJ, it's fine. Like, there's organizations for this and this and this. We even had art therapy. It was insane. Like, I didn't for the first 2 days. I was very opposed. I was like, don't like this. Where my son, who is, you know, young, he would go off to music and art therapy with my parents. It was all done. Like, so they were like, do you want us to take Judah for an hour to do music therapy? And I think I walked past to go see my midwife, and I could hear the singing, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cute. Like, Judah's in there, like, it's a sensory room. Yeah. So there's like lights going everywhere, and just
specifically for kids, or
yeah, specifically, and it was just a one-on-one session for Judah, just to feel at home, and like, it was just beautiful. And it was like the third day we were at Hummingbird after he passed, and they were like, I think it's time we do some artwork with him. And I was like, ugh, like, I just don't want to do this. Like, it was just very like, I don't know why I felt opposed, but I guess did it. And it was really beautiful. And then what else did we get? Just trying to think. Yeah, I guess it's just like the little things you've got in your house, like the castings and stuff, and the photos from Heartfelt. They were there all the way through, which was really cool. And
I got a message off the girl from Heartfelt the other day. So Heartfelt is a volunteer organisation that takes professional photos at the time your baby's passing or has passed. And I remember when they offered that to me, and I was like, I don't know, that sounds really weird, but you know, kind of took it on. And she messaged me the other day, and she just said, I just see you tag us in so many things, and I just love your feedback. And you know, she said, I don't normally get feedback from families, so don't know how they've perceived what we've done. And I'm like, I'm your biggest fan. Like, you know, I've got your photos framed around my house. Like, we made the slideshow. Like, I just adore the photos that she took for us, because they were just so candid and so raw, and they got the really, you know, really scrunchy face crying ones, and then they got all of, when Dylan and I went up to have a shower, they were taking photos of my family, Dylan's family and our friends, like kissing me and smelling her and laughing and just having that time. And I'm just so grateful for those photos and that organisation. Like, and I just feel like, the memories box and all the things that they offered, I don't even remember, you know, saying yes to most of them, but it was just like, now when I open the box, and then I opened it for the first time the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, even her little hospital bands are in there, her bandages that were around her little broken legs and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, I just would never have thought of those things, you know. We brushed her hair with a toothbrush. That was her brush. And so the other day, Dylan goes, oh, her brush. And I was like, what? It was a toothbrush? That's what the nurses were using. So we were like, oh my god, like, I forgot all those things. So it's so nice to receive that box, and you know, you might not open it straight away, but to then to go back and look at it and be like, wow, like, I just,
the emotion behind it when you open it, you're like, because I don't open mine often either. And he's got his little heart things, and he's got his hair that we cut, and all those sort of things. But it's insane. The crazy story all behind this. So a year before, 6 months before all of this happened with Benji, we had a photographer who did Christmas photos for our first son. And anyway, I contacted her when I first found out I was pregnant. I was like, oh no, I really want some maternity photos. I just found out I was pregnant, blah, blah. And then we found out what was going on, and I messaged her. I was like, I'm going to cancel this stuff. My baby now has, you know, trisomy 18. She goes, are you kidding me? My brother had that, and he passed away. Like, when he was an infant too. Look, let me take care of you guys. Let's do a maternity photo shoot as a family, and let me be at the, you know, the birth and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, are you sure? She was like, no, this means a lot to me. And so she was at, you know, she couldn't get to the birth because I gave birth way too quickly.
She couldn't get to the car side.
No, it's crazy. So she was at the side of Joey and Josh when they took Benji into his little, I guess, crib thing, and took all those photos. And then she was there the night we dedicated Benji, and then Heartfelt were at the end in the room when he was passing, and I didn't even notice that there was a lady in the room. It's crazy, eh?
That's why they're so beautiful, because they just blend into the background, and they're not invasive. Or, you know, Dylan's mum said the other day, she said, I just thought it would be so strange that there was a photographer, but this girl was just so divine, and just so, she just stared into your soul, like as if she was just so sad, but yet so honoured to be there. Like,
So
you know,
true.
just really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So beautiful.
No, that's good.
So what is next for AJ, Judah, and Josh?
What's next?
Mm.
Well, I guess looking to like fall pregnant again, it just hasn't been really working. But I guess for both of my husband and I, we're very much into our careers at the moment and being parents, I guess. But we're very, very open with other people about our story, and I love it when Josh shares about our story because it just comes from a different angle that I'm like, oh, wow. You know, because you forget that they grieve differently and they process things differently. So when we had, you know, chemical pregnancies and miscarriage one after the other, like last year, like that broke him completely. Where I think for me, I was very numb and I was like, oh wow, let's go again. Where he was like, I can't do this again. I can't lose another child. So so we think differently, and I like that about us because you know you get to see the world in a different way. But
And it's so hard on them, hey, like, you know, it's so hard on us that, you know, they feel it in different ways and they grieve differently, and and it's so sad when they just want to be dads as well, you know, like, and he is a dad to Judah and he is a dad to Benji, but it's, you know, they just want more earthside babies, and and they just feel shit as a female, just going, I'm sorry, I'm trying.
It's so true. It's so true. You know, because they're doing fine, and then it's us that are like, can't keep it. Sorry, but for sure.
But I just wanted to say thank you for. I don't take this for granted, and I'm definitely so honoured to have had you on here and sharing your story and sharing your beautiful Benji with us, and thank you for sharing so raw and, you know, talking about the dark places and all of those things, because that's really a lot. And, you know, the fact that you were told to terminate, and I know there's a lot of people out there that have to make that decision, and some do, and that's so valid as well. So, you know, there's so much strength in either decision, and I love that you have little Benji with you for a few days, and I love that you get to touch him and cuddle him. Thank you for sharing him with us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, honestly. Such a crazy opportunity, you know, like, why are we here? Like, you know, people call it the Mama Lost Club. I'm like, we are, I guess, it's the shittest club ever.
The shittest club with the coolest
you know?
people.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what someone replied to me the other day. I won a Mama Lost package on Instagram, and I was like, this is the shittest competition to ever win, but also, and then one of the ladies wrote, it is the shittest club, but it's got the most amazing women in it, and I was like,
so true, because you just get each other, like, you just sit down and you don't have to explain yourself, where with other people who haven't lost children, they're like, what? Where it's like, oh my gosh, I get you. You don't need to explain.
And that's why we had lunch the other day, because it was like, no one else can understand this. But, you know, we've had, similarly to you, we've had amazing support, and people can only try to understand, you know, and I hope that no one I know ever goes through it, because I don't want to ever experience this pain again or more.
Thank you so much, babe.
Let's drink our wine.
Thank
you so much for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. We're going to go finish our wine, and I will upload this podcast Sunday week. And maybe one day Josh might even come and we can interview from his side of things as well.
We'd love that.
Oh,
yeah, you would.
We would love that. Stay tuned.